Rochelle Garza, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. You were a staff attorney at the ACLU of Texas and also now in private practice, and now you want to become Attorney General. Why is that, and what are your priorities?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm Rochelle Garza. I'm running for Attorney General because I really want to fight for Texas families. And a lot of that starts with my own background and my own family. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. My parents are both public school teachers, and they taught me a lot about hard work and that everyone deserves dignity and respect. I grew up in a household with a sibling with disabilities, and I saw how hard my parents fought for my brother Robbie, and I know a lot of Texans go through that every single day. And that's really what inspired me to become an attorney and to fight for civil rights. So I've fought for families, for children, for immigrants throughout my legal career. And that's exactly what I'm going to do for the state of Texas and for the people of Texas, because Texans deserve an attorney general that understands them and that is ready to fight for them.
As you know, this is a crowded Democratic field in the primary. And so I'm wondering, why should Democrats consider you and select you over the other candidates in the primary?
There's a couple of reasons why why I stand out above the rest. Um, you know, First of all, my legal career and the work that I have done as an attorney is very broad. I have practiced family, immigration, criminal defense, constitutional law, and I've really spent my career fighting in Texas courts, in federal courts. I know what it's like to represent individuals that are seeking child support, that are going through custody cases, that are interacting with the criminal justice system here in Texas. And I'm also someone that has built up a case that reinforces civil rights across the country, specifically in the area of reproductive justice. So I have all of this breadth of experience that will be useful to the position of Attorney General. And further, representation matters. The state of Texas is 40% Latino. We are over half women, and we need to have people in positions that reflect our communities and that understand the issues that we're facing. So, my priorities of fighting for civil rights, voting rights, reproductive rights, these are all things that Texans care about. And these are the things that I'm going to do in this office.
So how concerned are you that there will be a runoff in the primary?
Well, we'll have to wait and see once we get there. But we are working really, really hard as a campaign. The polling data shows that we are ahead in the polls or neck and neck with Mr. Jaworski. But I feel very good about my campaign. We've been focusing on ensuring that we have the ability to communicate with folks. We've been pulling fantastic endorsements from Emily's List, Annie's List, and we continue to build a broad coalition across issue areas and across communities across the state of Texas. So having somebody who is from the border, from the Rio Grande Valley, I think brings a lot of energy to the ticket, and the voting is going to reflect that.
You mentioned the polling, and I know there were two polls that came out this weekend, and they both say that a lot of people just don't know who they're going to vote for in the Democratic primary for Attorney General. So how will you get your message out and your platform out?
Like I said, we are building a broad coalition across the state of Texas. We have, built up movements in all of the major urban hubs, but also are working on making sure that we reach rural voters. Like I mentioned, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. We are somewhere between an urban, rural-ish community, and we have a lot of politically engaged folks down here that are primary voters. So making sure that we reach people where they're at, communicating with organizations from the ground up, pulling in support from elected officials across the state, and really amplifying the message that we're trying to convey to the people of Texas, which is, you know, let's quit with the divisive politics. Let's focus on the things that are going to make Texans' lives better. Let's uplift our communities, fight for civil rights, fight for consumer protections, hold people accountable for what happened with the energy grid, and ensure it doesn't ever happen again. And uplift healthcare and fight the COVID-19 pandemic.
So let's talk about the issues. You brought up reproductive rights. And as you know, the Texas Heartbeat Act has been before the United States Supreme Court twice now, and looks like it's going to go before the Texas Supreme Court here before long. And so I'm wondering, where are you on this issue as it relates to the enforcement provisions, which are through civil lawsuits?
Reproductive justice is something that I've worked on for a long time. You know, I worked on a case of a young woman who was denied access to abortion care here in Texas by the Trump administration. You know, our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, tried to involve himself. We beat him back. Brett Kavanaugh, who's now in the Supreme Court, and tried to stop my client from getting the care she needed. We beat him back. And we ensured that not only she received the care she needed, but we were able to stop this from ever happening again. And it resulted in the Garza notice. So every teen that is in immigration custody is required to be given notice that they have access to abortion care. Now, what we've seen the state of Texas do with the 6-week abortion ban has been detrimental to the people of Texas. It's been incredibly harmful. We've seen Paxton defend it. We see where it's at with the Supreme Court refusing to hold the Fifth Circuit accountable for not following their orders on what they should have done with it. And now it's at the Supreme Court of Texas. It is harmful to our communities. And we're going to need someone in the Attorney General's office that has been creative and understanding of the issues and how we move forward from here. So we need to attack the law, the substance of the law. Once we see what happens with Roe v. Wade next summer, unfortunately, we're going to see it topple. We're going to see Roe v. Wade no longer being the law of the land, and then it will be up to the states. And so that's why we have to have someone in the Attorney General's office that's going to fight for Texans' right to reproductive justice, to reproductive care, because it is health care.
Wanted to ask you about the border and the fact that the state has been spending $3 billion on the border, and part of that includes funding for its own state border wall. So where are you on this, and the fact that there have been, you know, back and forth lawsuits between the state of Texas and the Biden administration?
You know, I'm also from the border region. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, and I've seen this issue play out. My first career, or first part of my career, was working as an immigration attorney, and I've represented hundreds of children and parents in immigration courts and trying to get them status in asylum and anti-trafficking cases and all that. Like, the border wall in particular is very harmful to the border communities. You know, my position is that we should not be using state funds to support the border wall. It's harmful to the environment. We do live in a flood zone, so flooding is a huge problem, and it will only exacerbate the issues that we are already seeing. And defending the construction of the wall is not necessarily, it's not going to stop migration, because it hasn't been proven to do so. The numbers do not justify it. And we have better use for the funds that the state of Texas has. You know, there are so many things that we can use this funding for in order to uplift our communities, to ensure that people have access to clean drinking water, because it is not just a problem here on the border, it is a problem throughout the state. So using the money to make sure that we engage in consumer protection, that we engage in all of the things that are going to uplift all Texans, instead of funneling it to something that is not helpful.
I wanted to ask you about the voting legislation in the House, which passed the House. The U.S. House won't pass the U.S. Senate. and the difference between the state law that did pass here. Where are you on all of this? And again, this is another instance where there are back and forth lawsuits between the state and the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, voting is fundamental to the ability to fully be a citizen in this country, and we've seen an unprecedented attack on voting rights. And my campaign was notified of a couple of issues that have been going on since SB1, since the voting rights changes were put into place. We've seen counties send out letters to individuals that have been citizens for very long periods of time, that have been voting for long periods of time, asking them to verify their citizenship status or be purged from the voter registration rolls. Over 2,400 people were purged that way as of November of 2021. And we're seeing ballots being thrown out, mail-in ballot requests thrown out in multiple counties across the state. It's horrible. It undermines our ability to elect the leaders, and instead elect our leaders instead of the leaders electing who they want and making sure that they retain power. As part of my administration, I want to have a fully funded civil rights division that not only dismantles the voter integrity unit that Ken Paxton has put into place, but ensure that we have a civil rights division that includes voter protections, that includes ensuring people have access to the ballot box, that they can vote at different hours during early voting, to make sure that we retain the rights that we have as citizens of this country.
A couple other questions, and I appreciate your time. Where are you on vaccine mandates and Governor Abbott's executive order banning vaccine mandates as it relates to the COVID-19 vaccine?
I think the science is clear. Vaccines work. We have been in this pandemic for a very long period of time. It has been 2 years. And we did something absolutely incredible as a society. We developed a vaccine to help protect us and to fight COVID-19 deaths. Look, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. We saw a lot of people die during the pandemic, and it was devastating for our communities. It was devastating for people across the state of Texas. And I know folks are ready to get back to regular life, and we all are, but we can't do that without having vaccines. And we know that the science says that they work. We should be supporting vaccines and ensuring that people get vaccinated, because your risk to Omicron is much lower if you're vaccinated and boosted.
So do you support a mandate? I know it's been through the courts, and the Biden administration has had to step back from that. But where are you on this? Because some people say they don't believe in the government forcing somebody to take the vaccine as much as they think they should just voluntarily get it.
I mean, I think vaccines are required for a lot of things in everyday life. If you want to send your children to school, they have to be vaccinated. And we have these requirements so that we not only protect our children, but protect others. So ultimately, at the end of the day, yes, I am supportive of vaccines and folks getting vaccinated. And if it has to be done through a mandate, then that is where we're at. But I mean, we'll see what happens with the litigation and where things fall. But ultimately, we have to stop fighting the science, because if we're going to come out of this, we need to make sure that people get vaccinated.
And my last question to you is, we've talked about a number of state laws that you oppose, and I'm wondering, if you are elected as Attorney General, how do you go about having to protect the state's interests in court if you oppose the law?
That's a really great question. The Attorney General is an independent executive, first and foremost, and the duty runs to the Texas Constitution and to the US Constitution. And so making sure that we uphold the law. So, in terms of the laws that we've been seeing passed that undermine voting rights, that undermine reproductive justice, they should never have reached the level that they've reached. They should not never have become enacted into law. They should not have been litigated all the way up to the Supreme Court. As the Attorney General, I will look at the laws, use the powers of the Attorney General office, which includes issuing opinions, which includes litigating and refusing to litigate certain laws that do go into effect. Because, like I said, my ultimate role is to uphold the Constitution, but also to be the people's attorney and to represent the interests of the people of Texas. It's not to be the attorney for the legislature or the governor or the lieutenant governor and to uphold anything that they are doing that puts the rights of Texans at risk.
And so does that mean on some of this litigation between the federal government and the state, you would settle with the federal government? I mean, how would that work on a practical sense?
On a practical sense, day one, I would have to look at all of the litigation that is currently pending and either settle or withdraw pleadings from certain cases, depending on where they're at in the process, in the legal process, and ensure that we're using taxpayer money in a way that is not frivolous. We've seen this attorney general use his office to attack so many things that are just based on partisan divisiveness. We can do both. We can pull back from this litigation, and we can also be proactive and work on making sure that we uplift consumer protections, that we ensure people have access to healthcare. I mean, let's not forget, Attorney General Paxton tried to get rid of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. And that's something that is so critical to so many people, not only across the country, but in the state of Texas, to be able to have health care, even though you have a pre-existing condition. So I want to make sure that we use this office in a way that is protective of Texans and uplifts families and the communities of Texas by ensuring they have access to healthcare, by ensuring we can get out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and by ensuring that we protect their civil rights.
Rochelle Garza, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.